Hey guys, welcome to the Chelsea SW6 match review. I am very happy to say Chelsea 2, Spurs 1, and we have beaten Spurs at Wembley, and their bad luck continues, and Chelsea have made a statement no better than anything else than to beat the runner-ups last season than what the media have been trying to say about us all this week. All this week the media have been hyping this match up, and it's a must-win game. Even if we had lost this game, I wouldn't have necessarily seen it as a bad thing. But what I wanted us to actually see in this match, more than anything as a person, is to make sure that we put our statement in this match. We actually control the match, or we actually come in this match with a statement of intent. Rather than looking like the way we did in that first half against Burnley last week, which was totally diabolical, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing at that match. Now, what was really great for me is this match is for us to actually understand what sort of lineup we would go with. And all week long in the media, everywhere, everybody's been talking about who's going to be playing next to N'Golo Kante. And you know what? Personally, I was expecting Bakayoko to be the person that ends up partnering him up in that midfield. And I was expecting certain situations. Let's just put it that way. Now, when we look up at the lineup, and it was announced at 3 o'clock today, one of the best things about it was the fact that you saw Bakayoko right there making his full debut. What you also saw there was Alvaro Morata getting his full debut, Andreas Christensen being trusted to do the job that he needed to do and continue in his development as a Chelsea player at Chelsea. And I think giving him first team experience, especially in moments when things are quite difficult and not necessarily easy, that's the best way to go about it. Now, looking at the formation that we actually went up with here, what was very surprising is it's not our usual formation, because instead of just having Bakayoko there next to N'Golo Kante, what we ended up actually having was David Luiz right next to them as well. And we actually played with 3 people in the middle. Now, that kind of gives you a little bit of an indication about what we would expect from the front as well, because you then had Willian and Alvaro Morata playing at the front. Willian obviously playing right behind Alvaro Morata and trying to partner him up in our counter-attacks. Now, that already gives you a bit of an indication again about what sort of game to expect. Spurs had a strong lineup there, and let's be frankly honest, they had a strong team. And we were obviously missing our magician, Cesc Fabregas. We were also obviously missing Eden Hazard, who got back to training this week as well, but didn't even make it to the bench. But at the very least, you had Pedro on the bench to be called up when needed. And from then onwards, you thought, okay, I guess we're going to put in a strong defensive performance, disciplined performance, and we're going to make sure that we get the 3 points here. And the game started, and really honestly, Spurs were all over us in that first at least 20 minutes. They were definitely over us because we couldn't really keep the ball. And that was it's a very big problem that we need to address in some way, shape or form. Because when we don't have Cesc Fabregas on the pitch, it's very worrying that our team doesn't really try and keep the ball. We are very much quite wasteful in our passes, and we don't really know what we're doing in terms of the intent of how we can carry an attack forward. That's very concerning for me as a person. But before you know it, David Luiz won us a free kick, and in a very sweet position as well. And you thought to yourself, Marcos Alonso or Willian, you've got this, you can put this in the back of the net. And Marcos Alonso stepped up, and Marcos Alonso put it in the back of the net. It was a very sweet strike. The keeper had no chance, the wall had no chance, and it was in the back of the net. And Chelsea were 1-0 up. And I can tell you this right now, no one really expected that in that game. Everyone was expecting Spurs to score based on how that game was going. Now, before you know it, Anthony Rudiger ends up getting a yellow card for something very quite silly. He kicks the ball off after there was a foul. All he had simply to do was it's a foul, continue with the play, go back to where you need to, defend, be disciplined. Instead, he kicks the ball, gets a yellow card. That already makes you quite nervous about the discipline of our players. Now, before you know it, then Spurs get more chances, and before you know it, Harry Kane ends up also hitting the post. And then you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is where sometimes now we need to understand how to take the pressure well, but we need to also do ourselves a favor and keep the ball more often, because we're gifting balls to them for them to just kind of pick out and come at us. We still looked quite disciplined, and then before you know it, David Luiz ends up getting a yellow card too. And you're suddenly thinking, okay, can we just at least get into this half-time where we can at least keep this 1-0 lead? Losing this 1-0 lead is probably the last thing we need in this first half, because it will give a little bit of momentum going into the second half to Spurs. And we go in 1-0 in the first half. The second half then starts, and then you're thinking, okay, we can definitely get something out of this game. Hopefully Antonio Conte has told the players what they needed to hear, and they can be more disciplined and more composed when on the ball, rather than giving them away very sillily. Suddenly, before you know it, what you then have is Spurs then again with a lot of the ball. Actually, by the end of this match, Spurs had 68% possession. And that tells you a lot about what we were doing with the ball, even when we got the ball. Because we were very good at just giving it right back to them and gifting it to them. We weren't even that great at actually trying to grab the ball and create some sort of counter-attacking opportunities with Willian or Alvaro Morata. But as I say this, in the second half, they did slightly improve. And before you know it, we had Willian, who had a good chance and ended up hitting the post. And then Willian also then a few minutes later had another good chance, got the ball, passed it on to Alvaro Morata. Morata got away from the defender, and as he turned back to shoot, another Spurs defender literally just gets in the way, and Morata ends up missing it. And if that went in as a 2-0, you would definitely say Chelsea were going to be very comfortable in this game. But that's not how we do things at Chelsea. Well, eventually what happens is we do make subs. We get Michy Batshuayi on, and Alvaro Morata comes on, and he put in a really good shift. I was definitely very proud of the performance. And he had 2 good chances, and unfortunately, if he had finished one for us, it would have been really great for his confidence, for us as Chelsea fans, but it wasn't meant to be. Michy Batshuayi comes on, and then we also take off Willian, who absolutely looked shattered, and in my opinion, didn't really have the best of performances, other than having a few chances where he did a little bit of things. Other than that, he was not great at keeping the ball, he wasn't great at creating chances, and I just felt like that's not the Willian that I know. I feel like Willian has a lot more to offer than what we saw on the pitch today. Pedro comes on, and then suddenly, before you know it, a few minutes later, Spurs get a free kick in a very good position. And then you're thinking to yourself, it's a set piece, we just need to be disciplined, we need to do what we need to do. But Christian Eriksen, as we all know, is very good at putting the ball in a place where it kind of does create a lot of controversy, and it creates a lot of problems. And before you know it, Michy Batshuayi unfortunately scores in the wrong goal, the wrong end. And you're thinking to yourself, mate, this is definitely not what you needed, not after last week. And then suddenly you're thinking, how can we get back into this? How can we try and at least cause an upset? We need a reaction right now. We can't just now suddenly give up. We can't let them win. That's, for me, is very much a big deal. And you thought, okay, the character of Chelsea, we can definitely try and gain something from this. And before you know it, what suddenly then happens is Chelsea does get a really good chance, thanks to David Luiz, because we had a really good counter-attacking opportunity with Michy Batshuayi. Unfortunately, the keeper gathers, and as the keeper throws it out, you then have David Luiz taking a risk, like he always does in midfield, goes towards the ball and grabs the ball just before Spurs are able to break on a counter-attack on us. And before you know it, David Luiz then passes it on to Pedro, and Pedro then passes it to Alonso, and Alonso makes it 2-1. I have to admit, Hugo Lloris should have done a better job at that. I can't believe he actually did not save that, but who cares? We've won. It was 2-1, and now it was all about finishing this game in a very composed manner, because the last thing you need in this type of game is silly more mistakes and actually trying to do things that don't actually control the game or put it in our favour. And you know what? We held on, guys. We held on, and we won 2-1 against Spurs in a game where everyone pretty much said it's a can't lose. And even if we had drawn, the media and everybody would have picked on that. And you know what? I think the best thing about it is the fact that we have made a statement by beating up the runners-up last year, getting that 2-1 win without Cesc Fabregas, without our captain Gary Cahill, and without Eden Hazard. I think that's a very big statement. And you know what? Chelsea are actually back in this. And it's funny that I have to say this at the second game of the season, because it just tells you a lot about how media can really make something out of nothing. Now, with that being said, for me, the biggest thing about this match is I need to speak about who I thought put in really good shift, because for me, it's great to talk about the formation we played, the fact that we got the result. There are certain performances that for me are very quite concerning. I do think we definitely need to go find a certain type of midfielder, whether that's in this window or at the January transfer window or next year. Chelsea needs to get a midfielder. When Cesc Fabregas isn't available, we can still control a tempo of the game, because our passing is absolutely atrocious when Fabregas is not on the pitch. That for me is very concerning, because any time that we have big players missing, we can't be a team that just suddenly now can't perform. That's not the type of Chelsea we are. That's not the type of team we've been built in the past. And you all know what type of great team we've had in the past. Another concerning thing for me is very simple. is when it comes to our defense, you can tell that there's a little bit of lack of experience, and you can tell there's a little bit of lack in terms of discipline that is a little bit quite concerning for me, because we're picking up silly yellow cards. There's at least 2 players now that have gotten 2 yellow cards in the first 2 games of the season. 5 yellow cards, and that's from 1 match suspension. We can't have that. This is not that type of season. Now, as I said that, I have to admit there was really good performances that I was quite impressed with. I think Bakayoko, for his first match, was someone who isn't really that fit, who's still trying to get to grips with the Premier League. I'm not saying he had a performance that was out of this world, but he definitely had a solid performance that I felt did actually really well, and he did his job and he put in a good shift. I was very proud of that, because in this type of match, when we don't have the ball, you can't really see what type of player he really is. He's really great on the ball, especially if a team has the ball. He's very good at distributing. He's very good at actually commanding position. But the fact of the matter is, that's not the type of game we were playing today, and as a result, he suffered for that. But he still managed to put in a good, solid performance. Morata did also a great job at hold-up play, and I think that's something Michy Batshuayi needs to get a hold of, because if he wants to be in that starting lineup, any Chelsea fan knows this. The way Chelsea plays, you need to be a target man when needed, and you need to run in behind when needed. And those are 2 things that I feel Alvaro Morata, even though that he's not fit, even though that he's not fully ready, just like our manager keeps on continuing to say, one thing that's very obvious to me is Alvaro Morata seems to know a little bit more than Michy Batshuayi at the moment. But other than that, it's 2-1 Chelsea. We have won this game. Up next for us is Everton, and I honestly cannot wait, because I do genuinely believe we will have Eden Hazard back for that game, and I also think that Pedro will more than likely be more fit to actually start the game. And I think when we have 2 people on the wings that can cut inside but can cause problem on the wide, but you also have a support for that striker in Alvaro Morata, I think we can cause far more problems than people can imagine, and I genuinely cannot wait for that. It's Chelsea 2, Spurs 1, and we have won the game, guys. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate that. I actually do have 3 questions, because it's great that you can hear my thoughts, but I also want to hear your thoughts. So there are 3 questions here for you. First question, who do you think was your man of the match for this game? Second question, do you think that Antonio Conte's formation for this game was not ambitious enough, or do you think it was actually a very good formation to go with, considering the fact that we were in difficult circumstances for this game? And last but not least, I want to hear your thoughts on the full debuts of Andreas Christensen and Bakayoko. What did you think of their performances? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.